do you think that his age helps him just because he's a Gen X type? Do you think that adds anything?
I don't really know. I think that should help. He's brilliant. He just turned 40, I think. So he's really, pretty young to be running for president. I think it's nice to have somebody who can kind of like represent, millennials and Gen Xers in this thing where you have, two people who are, really much older with maybe all the, I guess kind of like culture and, ideas that go along with that. I don't want to be ageist. Like, I don't think like, if you're younger, you're necessarily like better or anything like that. That's not really, and a lot of people spend too much time on that. I don't think that's really the point. But I think it could work in his benefit that he's older. And his question about messaging, like, I don't want to act like I can speak, for him or for his campaign or anything. They probably have a way more articulate way of putting what his message is that I do. And right now, I'd like to remind everybody what we have is an exploratory committee. There's technically no campaign yet. So he did announce he was interested in running for president. He has not secured a nomination yet. He's not, going to be on any ballots yet. If everything just, stayed exactly like, how it is, he would be on no ballots. So I anticipate more to come. I think a lot of you are going to be, pleased with what you see. Maybe some people won't be pleased with what they see, but like, Obama didn't always have, change we can believe in, or yes, we can, or whatever. Like that happened, at some point or another. So I think you'll get some kind of thing that you can, that you can rally around. It might be a little bit different than what you've seen with other candidates, though, because unlike other people, I think that he doesn't just focus on platitudes. I think that that's one of the main like distinguishing differences. There isn't any one like platitude that can like, sum up what you should do as president. So
right.
Well, I think one thing that's interesting about Amash, at least right now in this preliminary stage of the campaign, like we were talking about that tweet earlier off the air. I wish we were talking about where he says he's going to do things like end asset forfeiture, end the war on drugs. He's going to end this, end foreign wars, end this. I'm going to get rid of this, get rid of this, get rid of that. But at some point, what Amash needs to do is also say, well, this is what I'm going to add. You know what I mean? Like this is what I'm going to bring new to the table. And I haven't seen that yet. Have you seen that?
I've seen one thing, and I think maybe people aren't focusing on this enough. So I think I would like to point it out because I think it's very good. It's just, I don't know, it might be not meaty enough for like some of the pundits or something, but I think it's very important. So we should probably try to get people to get it. And it's that Congress is broken. So basically what he's saying is the way the process works right now is the president and the leadership of both parties get together and then they come up with some deal about like what everybody's doing. And then they tell everybody how to vote. And that's the entire thing right now. There is no deliberative body. So I guess if you were to sum it up in a short thing that you could tell people, it's you are not being represented. You're electing representatives to Congress and they're not representing you because the system doesn't allow them to. Everything's about committee assignments and like other stuff like that. By the way, went to a talk with Barry Goldwater Jr., who was a congressman. He was explaining how committee assignments work. I didn't really know anything about committee assignments. So what a lot of people might think is that, they look at you and you're like, oh, Dr. Ron Paul, you're a medical doctor. Oh, that's good. We'll put you on, a healthcare committee or something like that. Nope, not how that works. Apparently, the way the committee assignments work is they basically do it based on seniority. The ones that are considered the best committees to be on are given to the people who have been there the longest and the most loyal, et cetera, et cetera. And then the way they get their expertise is that they invite experts to come and educate them. So experts, we're talking about lobbyists basically. So people are making their, decisions about what the laws are going to be for the U.S. based on what lobbyists are telling them to do.
Right. Yeah, I've heard him talk about that, and he's absolutely right. In fact, he was quoted in the book American Carnage at length, sort of talking behind the scenes to Tim Alberta about how I guess it was John Boehner was the predecessor to Paul Ryan, and Amash had been very much against Boehner. Like his whole thing is, we're going to get Boehner out. We're going to put one of our people in. And they put Paul Ryan in, who had been sort of a Tea Party guy. And he was even more top down and didn't allow them to do anything. No amendments coming from the floor. Everything had to go through the Speaker of the House. And the only reason, as far as I can tell, why you have the two parties working together right now is because the Democrats have the House and the Republicans have the Senate. Otherwise, it would just be the Senate Majority Leader and the Speaker of the House working together, both from the same party, coordinating. But yeah, I think he's absolutely right about that. But it is a bit of a wonky issue. But the fact, I think you're right. It's a bedrock issue. This is about, are we being represented, even in a literal sense? Are our representatives even trying to represent us? So we're running a little short on time here, but kind of where do you see this going? Can he dig into the Biden coalition or the Trump coalition, or can he get the Bernie bros on his side? Do you see any of that happening? Is he going to win any states? Where is this going?
I think it can happen. I think what needs to happen is it needs to dawn on people that something is broken and needs to change. And I know people have a short political memory, but just think about like what the Republicans have been doing, what the Democrats have been doing, what they've been promising you. Have they ever delivered on their promises? I mean, you have the Republicans always run on like limited government. The Democrats always run on like social justice or something. Like it just never actually pans out the way that they say it's going to. And sometimes they just shift every 10 years on like what their positions are. It's like it's all just some big kind of game. So I think if you can hammer home the point that our republic, representative democracy, it isn't working. And that we could make a change. This is something concrete Justin Amash said that he would do. He said, I'm not going to participate in this process. If you elect me to be president, I'm not going to collaborate with the leaders of, the two houses and the parties to make these decisions. I'm going to force them to bring it to Congress and deliberate, because that's what Congress is supposed to do. Your representatives are supposed to represent you in this body, debate, write laws that way. That's how it's supposed to work. So if people, I don't know, if people want to fix, the Democratic Republican system of government, which people are saying all the time, right? Like democracy is broken. How many times have you heard that? This is your way to fix democracy.
Every 4 years. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that this is your best shot at fixing democracy. So that's kind of, if that point, can get through to people, then I think that he'll have more success than people are thinking. Also, I'd like to point out that he constantly surprises people. I remember when he was running against this guy, I think his name was Brian Ellis, in his primary in Michigan. A lot of his colleagues, in the House dumped him. A lot of his donors dumped him. A lot of people went to this guy. The guy was rich. He was funding his own campaign. He ran a lot of like nasty stuff, calling Justin Amash like a friend of Al Qaeda and all this other kind of stuff. Beat the guy by more than 10 points, I think, which wasn't something a lot of people were anticipating. They were like, all right, we're going to stab him in the back and then he's going to go away. But that didn't happen. He's been remarkably, for the amount of times people have said, you're going to go any day now. He's been around since 2010. So,
yeah, and that attack, calling him a friend of Al Qaeda, is especially offensive if you realize that Justin Amash is an Arab Christian.
Right. Yeah. His parents are from the Middle East. He says, dad was a refugee, mom's an immigrant. They're from Syria and Palestine. They came to America for a better life. He's a second generation American, and they were no way involved in, like you said, Arab Christian, like they're persecuted, by groups like Al Qaeda and other, militant groups in that area. So the idea that you could make that association and kind of do that dog whistle, you're like, look at this Arab guy, he's doing, like, that's just awful. But I'm going off on a tangent.
No, I think it's an excellent point, and I'm glad you made it. A lot of people have been saying that they think he's a Muslim, and it's a very strange thing. So I guess, well, thank you for coming on, and we've had a lot of good questions and a good discussion, I think.